Headphones on. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay, well here we are again.
Welcome to the Dawn and Martha Show.
Yes.
We're here this afternoon in Martha's lovely home, and we had said at our last video that we would tell some of our favorite adventures, favorite things from our trip to Israel, and share some memories. And so we've just had a nice lunch and discussed what it was we thought we'd talk about.
Yeah, and it's taken us 3 weeks to process it all and kind of get ourselves together again to get to this point.
It's
so
true.
Here we are. Okay, so you want to start? You want me to start?
Let's start with our. Let's start with the lighter things.
The lighter things.
So
Okay.
we'll start with our fun moments from the trip, and talk about things that we saw and did that we thought were maybe just the most fun and most interesting, and then we'll move to the more serious.
Right. Okay.
So we'll go from the ridiculous to the sublime.
Okay, so here's the first one, the most ridiculous. This is my little story. We're walking in Jerusalem. It was our day off, and we were doing some shopping. We're walking down the Cardo, which is the main shopping street. And I'm coming out of a little shop. We're in their Muslim quarter, and there's a teenage boy sitting on a little step to the shop. And just as I stepped through the door, I hear him say, "Hey, babe." And I turned around and I looked at him, and he looked up at me, and he looked rather embarrassed, and very sheepishly he said, "Oh, I'm practicing my English." And I said, "Good, because I'm your grandma, you know." And he said, "Yeah, I know." Now, I don't think he meant to say that to me. I think he was probably sitting there practicing saying, "Hey, babe," because he was working up the courage to go to say that to some gal, and he was going to test it out. Anyway, it was very fun. I wish I'd have taken a picture of him, but I didn't think to at that moment, but it was very cute.
It was very funny. Well, I think one of my favorite moments about you on the trip, one of the funniest things you did, was you were so impressed with the flow in the toilets that you actually did a little video to send to Sister Ruth.
Actually, to Bob or whatever, yeah.
You sent to about how much water was actually flushing down the toilet.
It was amazing, and quite frankly, to those that I've shown it to have said, "Oh my gosh, look at that! It's like a flood." It was so cool.
And the other part of it was about the lack of plugs.
The lack of plugs in that. Oh, it
In
was
the
so
hotel room.
funny. Yes, we are so used to plugs everywhere in our homes, all walls everywhere, multiple, you know. It had one. Anyway, we worked with it.
We did.
So, yes.
But as if you have been watching any of our little video clips, and we did say on a couple of occasions that our internet service was pretty wonky. Well, that kind of helps you understand why. That there's the lack of electricity availability because there's only one plug and for the hair dryer, and the plug was not in the bathroom. It was actually in the room over the dresser where the
refrigerator was plugged in.
Yeah, so we
Which
actually
we
had to
unplugged.
unplug so we could plug some other things in. So that was pretty hilarious, but I guess, first world people and not quite such a first world place.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
We worked it.
It was good. Yes.
was good.
Yes.
Yeah. The other fun little story that I think we feel safe in sharing right now because we're home.
We're home and safe.
So there was the last evening that we were in Jerusalem. We went back inside the old city and had a lovely cup of coffee. And
in glass cups.
In glass cups.
Yes.
It was really great. Shopkeeper was getting ready to close up, but he said he'd be happy to serve us a cup of coffee. So we sat and enjoyed a lovely evening. And then looking at our watches, decided, we probably ought to try to get outside the city walls before it gets dark, because it's really dark in the souks. There's no street lights or things like that. The only lights come out of the shops, and they're all closing up. So we we hurried to try to find our way back outside the city walls, and kind of proceeded to get lost.
As we we turned down one little street that really kind of took us into a Muslim neighborhood. There were children playing on the street.
Yeah.
And at the end of the street, as a turn to the left, there were about 4 or 5 gentlemen sitting there smoking their cigarettes. And I thought of my mother, which said, look straight ahead and walk with purpose. So we looked straight ahead and we walked with purpose past them. As it was very dark and dusky.
It was really getting
Yeah.
late. But we did obviously make our way out. It just took a little longer than we expected because there aren't any road signs in there either. There's very few street signs, and just they don't all say go this way to the gate or that's that way to the gate. Maybe it's just a street sign or the name of the neighborhood or something.
Yeah,
So-
really. And then of course everything looks different in the dusk anyway.
Right.
But
right.
what we did do, we came across an Orthodox Jewish couple pushing a stroller, and
Oh,
we
right.
thought we would follow them because maybe it would be safer to follow them, until we came across what was obviously a tourist couple. So we figured they knew where they were going, so we did follow them, and they actually did know where they were going, which took us to one of the city gates.
So
we
it all
got
worked
out,
just
got out,
fine.
worked out, and then we
Yeah.
proceeded to trot, whatever, our way back to the hotel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So we felt like, well, that was a little high drama
a
adventure.
little high drama, yeah.
It was all good. It all turned out good.
It worked out, yeah. But yes, we were very confused as to
Yeah.
where we were, and it's kind of hard to tell.
So I think one of our other really favorite things that we got to do was to ride the camels.
Oh, totally.
And that was totally fun. When I was in Israel almost 40 years ago, I had an opportunity to ride a camel, which I turned down because it just looked a little scary and a little sketchy and all that kind of stuff. So I was really glad that we had the opportunity to do it. So scratch that one off the bucket list. And then the other part of that day was also floating in the Dead Sea. And I've not done that before on either of the other trips that I went on, and was determined that this time, well, also because the weather was warmer, that we would do that. And I'm really glad we did. But I'm telling you, that dressing room was a sauna.
Oh,
The changing room afterwards, oh.
well, there are
that was
showers in there,
awful.
because you have to shower that stuff off
Oh,
of you.
yeah, and you don't
And-
realize
oh
that
my
mud
gosh,
just kind
you
of gets
just
everywhere.
Might have been in a sauna, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to point out, if you see the picture of us floating in the water, it looks like we're actually sitting on the bottom, like doggy sitting up and whatever. But we're really not. You really are floating. It's just deceptive in a sense, because we just think, how can that possibly be? But you really are floating in this doggy position, kind of like to keep your head and everything up and out of the water, because you don't want to get your eyes and your face in the water.
Right, because it stings bad.
It is very,
really nasty.
But it's just really interesting
It's
how
an
you just
odd
float.
feeling,
Yeah.
just the oddest feeling. You just sit down and it just, there you
are.
are.
Yeah.
There you are. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was fun. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Followed by, of course, a little bit of shopping, which, that is just part of the experience
Oh,
as
of
well.
course, which,
Yes.
we don't do well at all at that kind of stuff.
No. We shun it at every opportunity.
Oh,
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that was great.
Yes.
I think some of the another fun, I wouldn't say it was fun or funky, but one of the moments where we were just rolling our eyes was when all of the other people on our tour insisted on having French fries for lunch. Seriously, like really, when you go to other countries, it's imperative that you try the cuisine. I know, now, I don't particularly think I want to go to the Far East because I think I really wouldn't like the food there, so I'm not going to go there. But when you choose to go to another country, it behooves you to try the local cuisine, which we loved.
Well, they weren't asking us to eat bugs, you know.
No,
this was not
right.
the deepest, darkest Africa or someplace in the jungles of, you know.
Wherever.
Yeah, wherever.
Or eating boiled octopus.
Or something.
Like
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
No.
seriously, it was great stuff. But yes, they complained so much about it that the tour guide arranged for French fries to be served with one of our midday meals.
Yeah.
And we just rolled our eyes.
Right.
Coupled, of course, with several days later where we ended up having pizza for lunch, which was fine pizza. It was cheese pizza.
It was good.
It was good, but then,
neither one of us would order
they
pizza.
complained about the fact there was no meat on the pizza, and I thought, people, come on, go with the flow here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but the food was really good. We enjoyed it.
And
Yeah,
even
quite
though,
a bit.
yeah, we did. And you know, if you ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch every day, what's the difference? Eating a falafel or a shawarma every day. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, probably they were all going to hamburger joint at lunch at home, you know. So here they were having falafel or shawarma for lunch, you know, which was just, you know, great.
Yeah, especially because everything that's on a falafel sandwich or
really
a
good for
shawarma
you.
sandwich is very healthy.
Yeah.
Right, and if you didn't want the bread, you could take it off. It was fine.
Yeah,
you know?
it was great.
And
yeah.
the falafels were actually interesting because they were a little different every time. Maybe just so in the seasoning
Yeah.
or something. Some were a little more spicy than others, and we liked them all.
You know, yeah, it was all great.
Yeah.
It was good stuff.
Yeah, very
I
fun.
enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah.
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 What
So-
else was it? We had a great time making all our little videos. We really did.
Oh, such fun.
And we wish that we had started doing that earlier in the week,
Yeah.
but you know, weren't quite thinking about all that. Plus, you know, still on the jet lag thing.
Oh,
and
totally.
Getting
Yeah.
all our brains together.
Completely. Yeah.
But we learned a lot about communicating on visually on this trip. And, and how to tell the stories and how to get it back so that other people, especially our husbands, could
No, we're still alive.
vicariously, you know, be part of the adventure with us.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, all of that stuff we enjoyed it. Of course, admittedly, we do think we're extraordinarily funny. So, you know, why lie? Anyway, yes, that was fun.
Yeah.
And then let's see, the one other little fun story is we walked into a little shop and the guy just looked at us and he said, "Oh my gosh, you're from Sweden." And we looked at each other and said, "What?" And he said, "Blue eyes and blonde hair," looking at me, and I thought, "Really?" Okay, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, he was fun. He was nice to talk to, and he did beg us to tell all of our friends to please come to Israel. It's very safe, and we said we always tell people that.
Yeah.
So,
And
anyway.
people have asked me about that, both before I went and after I got home too, about the safety issue. And I told people before, and I would say it again, it really truly is the safest place on earth.
yeah.
The safest place on earth.
Yeah.
There was never an issue other than, you know, at night in the old city.
Well, yeah,
And
but
we
you
didn't
don't
really
wander
even
around,
feel
you know, at night in your city.
unsafe.
We didn't feel unsafe.
Yeah.
No, it was just like wisdom said, get out so you know where you're at and find your way
Right.
out. Because
Right.
if everything's all shut up, how would you find your way out?
Right.
You know. So yeah, no, it was fine. And again, tour companies are certainly not going to put their people at risk
Right.
by letting you go if there's any concern whatsoever to a certain area.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah, it was just fine, and believe me, we were with all kinds of people all over the place, and never did we feel anything that wasn't remotely safe at
Right.
all.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So
I think the best day we had, really truly was the free day.
the free day, the
And
shopping
the
day.
shopping day. But it was such a lovely day.
It was a nice
it was a little
day.
warm, but to be able to just run around on our own, do
Yeah.
all the things we did. We started out by dressing very modestly,
Yes.
from here to there, so that we could walk through Mea Shearim, which is the ultra-Orthodox neighborhood in Jerusalem,
Yeah.
and just to experience that, which was very cool.
Yeah, that was just really nice. I
Yeah.
would have given my eye teeth to be able to take pictures, but they ask you not to, so
Right.
we didn't.
So you'll just have to trust us on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. Very
Anyway, then we
fun.
made a mad dash back to the hotel and changed clothes into stuff that was a little bit more comfortable and
A little bit
cooler.
less, yeah.
Yeah, for the rest of the day, we went back in the old city. We had talked to a tour guide actually stopped us outside the Jaffa Gate, and we chatted with him for quite a bit. He was actually trying to drum up some business for the day. But he was an American who had made Aliyah, and so we chatted with him about his story just a little bit, and he gave us a little bit of a rundown of what his services are in terms of being a tour guide. But we wanted to really just go and experience on our own. Part of the day involved lunch, especially, which we found just the most delightful little restaurant that was outdoors and was all covered and had beautiful flower arrangements, and
Yeah, just a lovely
the
outdoor
food
cafe.
was wonderful, and our little server was just so sweet and so cute.
Yael.
Yael was her name, and she spoke very good English,
Yes.
and so she was really fun to chat with.
Yeah.
But sitting there in this square and watching the people go by also was so fascinating and interesting to see people from literally all over the world, as well as local people walking by. One of the other things that was interesting, there was a huge group of military personnel, and they were all
Cadet-like,
female.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they were in training or something. They were all women.
And they were doing some kind of an interesting exercise. Do you remember that? They
I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was, but they were doing something. It was like they would come up, they were on this raised area, and they would come up group at a time and do sort of a thing, and then another group. It was, I know that's very informative.
Yeah. But it was fun to watch.
It was fun
And
to
that
watch,
was
yeah.
also the area where the gold menorah is displayed under very heavily protected glass. And if you saw one of our other videos, we talked quite a bit about that.
Yeah.
But that was also fascinating. And then later that afternoon, as we were wandering around, we asked, we were standing looking kind of a little bit confused, like we weren't sure which direction to go. And so a gentleman asked us if we needed help with directions.
Yeah.
And he was
an Iranian Jew. He said, you know, can I help you? And we said we were looking for a specific thing. And he said, okay, this shop over here will be good. Let me take you over there. So he actually walked us over there. He was in full garb. He had not the black hat, so he wouldn't have been quite as...
He wasn't ultra
orthodox, but he had the whole, you know,
his prayer shawl,
you know, the whole thing going on. He was very nice. He spoke to us, which is not very common necessarily, but then he told me he was an Iranian Jew, and you know, we asked if we could take a picture with him, which we did, which was quite nice. But he was just very helpful, and we appreciated it. And he sent us over to the Christ Church gift and bookstore, which had some very fun things in it. And that Christ Church has been there for decades. It's been there forever.
Probably more than decades. I think it's
probably,
like
but I mean,
centuries.
maybe so. Yeah, maybe so.
Hundreds of years.
Maybe so. Anyway, but it's you know, it's been there forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So that was nice. I mean, you know, he was very helpful. Oh, let's see. Okay, no, the other was. Are we getting into really good stories?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to forget to tell this one. This one was so cool. Why we didn't take a picture, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
where
like,
I was going to go next.
why don't you think you'd take pictures with this stuff? Here we were.
Because we were
once
living
again,
in the moment.
We were in the moment, I guess, yes. Here we were, we're in a corner, we're in that Cardo area, and we're trying to figure out exactly where we're at. And as we're standing there, next to us was a group of black people from Africa. You can tell by the get-up of the women's, the way that some of the women were dressed. Anyway, so one of them said, okay, you're on the corner of whatever. He pointed to a sign, and we said, thank you. And I noticed that his shirt said Deliverance Church. So I said, oh, are you believers in Jesus? And he said, yes, we are. And I said, well, we are too. Now, we both had Stars of David on that day, necklaces. And he said, but you're Jews. And I said, but we're believers in Jesus. And he said, oh, we've come to Israel to pray for the Jewish people. We prayed this morning to know whether or not there were any Jewish believers in Jesus. And I said, well, here's 2 of them. And they were so excited. And we just had a little moment of blessing each other over this. It was just really very cool. And once again, I wish we had taken a picture of them, but you know, we just shook each other's hands and we just had a little moment of fellowship, and it was really wonderful to experience.
Yeah, it was very serendipitous moment.
Yeah,
it was
very
great.
sweet.
It was
Yes,
great.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so other moments that I think were significant
Okay.
for us. Definitely the morning that we went to the Western Wall.
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually the
we'd
first
been there the night before.
The night before on Shabbat, on Friday night, we had gone with a group down there because it was dusky in the evening. But we went, the 2 of us went by ourselves down to the wall, to actually got to the wall and prayed. And that was just really very, very significant.
So you have to kind of get the picture that, you know, it's divided into 2 sections, and the men are all on one side, and then there's this big old curtain that separates the men's area from the women's area. There's chairs everywhere. There's also carts out there with prayer books on them, and the women will pick up a prayer book and they go up to the wall, and they'll spend however much time they feel they need to touching the wall, praying right there at the wall. Other women are sitting in chairs and they're also praying, or they're waiting their turn. So when we approached, we had to actually wait for a while for there to be enough space for us to actually get to the wall so that we could touch it and that we could pray together. And that was also just a very significant moment for the 2 of us to be able to pray together, to say the Lord's Prayer and to ask the Lord to continue to bless this place and to bring peace and to open the eyes of all of those women who are around us to who Yeshua really truly is, and that he is the Messiah. Not just someone else who they're still expecting to come. So that was just also highly significant.
That was
for both
really
of us.
significant. Yes, yeah, that was very, very, very great.
Yeah. And then the next day when we were down there again and saw several bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvah,
very
all of
fun.
That was fun and intriguing. And then you went down to the wall. I tried to video you going, but it was over my shoulder. So I don't know. I don't think you were ever really truly in the shot.
Yeah.
But you went down there on your own.
Yeah, I went down.
Narrated.
Yeah. Narration going on. Yes.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, it's not something I ever thought I would ever be able to do, for one thing. You know, this whole thing has just come up so quickly, you know, it was just amazing to be able to do that. Another thing that I found really amazing was, as we came from the day that we came from the northern part of Israel, where we had been up near the Sea of Galilee, and we came to Jerusalem, arriving just before sundown, up onto a lookout point called Mount Scopus, is what they call that. And you could look across from the east, you're looking to the west, to the city. And of course, there were lots of other tour buses and tour people up there also. There was a father and his son, and they were obviously local residents, Jews, and he was up there praying, and the teenage son was kind of twirling his curls, kind of like, come on, Dad, let's get done. He was being a teenager. But it was really very cool. I thought, we got off the bus, it was, first of all, very cool temperature-wise. We were up on this hill.
It was windy.
It was breezy, and we were ill-prepared a little bit for how cool that was. So, I don't know, I was just really shivering, seriously. But as I stood there and shivered, I thought how amazing to be there, and what I could, in my mind, imagine standing with my parents and having a discussion about this amazing thing of actually being in Jerusalem, or an amazing thing, something that I'm sure they never entertained even remotely in their brains, because it never would have been a possibility. But that was very, very impactful to me to be able to do that and just to see that moment of actually, okay, wow, here I am, you know, and to be the first of their children to get there. Yeah. So.
And for me, kind of a similar, but in a different spot. The night that we walked from the hotel down to the Damascus Gate, and we're just walking kind of along the main road there, which is now a very busy street, and it's a big street. But just feeling that, wow, we are here, and how exciting it is to just be here.
Yeah.
In every imaginable way that you can feel. It's really hard to describe. It's not so much the spiritual part of it. That is part of it, but also the historical part of it, the familial part of it. All of that just all wrapped together for me was an amazing moment.
Yeah. And to be able to share it together is just amazing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. What else? Other significant places or things we did?
Well, I have to say that I loved the Sea of Galilee. And one of the reasons was because the Sea of Galilee is the Sea of Galilee is the Sea of Galilee. It's in the same place it's always been. Maybe the water levels have risen and lowered over the years, but it is exactly the same spot. So therefore, being there, I could truly say I've been where Jesus was. Not that I need that to validate my faith in any way whatsoever, but it really was, okay, this really is the spot. There's no speculation. There's no, well, we think this is where it was in those days. Yeah, granted, we don't know exactly where he stood here, there, or whatever. But, you know, that was just really very cool to me. So I loved that. I loved being there. I loved the boat ride that we went on. I can just envision, you know, them riding along in the boat, and here's the storm coming up or whatever, or Jesus walking on the water, or, you know, we're going to go over to the other side kind of a thing. That was great. As well as the part, we went down to this part, it's called Peter's Primacy, which we had to look up because we weren't real familiar with that term. But what that is supposedly the Catholic version of where Jesus then came after the resurrection, and he, you know, had a conversation with Peter, and he said, okay, you're the head of the church, basically. Well, okay, so there's a little bit of a beachy cove thing there. They've built a little church next to this rock where the tradition of the day was that when you were a fisherman fishing out in your boat on the sea, they would have somebody on the shore yelling out to them saying, throw your nets on this side, throw your nets on this side, because apparently as schools of fish move around, you can kind of see, must be something visually, the water gets churned up or something. Anyway, so the idea being, here's this rock that's been there that did have steps carved into it, and that being where Jesus would have stood and said, throw your nets off to the other side, and they yell back and say, we have been fishing all night, we didn't catch anything. And then they're probably thinking, oh, that's our guy on the shore yelling to us where to fish. And then, of course, at that point, Peter realizes that, no, it's the Lord, etc., etc. Anyway, that was just also kind of very cool because, well, that may or may not be the spot, probably isn't, you know. But I could envision that, in a sense, the whole small little cove is set up with this rock there that, you know, the rock has been there, clearly. You know, they didn't just drag that in. So that was very, very realistic, I guess is the word I'm trying to say in my head. It just seemed like that could be something that I could kind of envision and relate to, and it was not like we came 300 years later and decided that here's where Jesus was born, or here's where that was born, or whatever, you know. That to me is a very subjective kind of attitude. We just decided this is the spot, you know. So
well,
anyway.
and archaeology continues to uncover more and more levels of civilization and things and artifacts and all of that. So it's a fluid situation where one discovery might refute an earlier discovery.
Right.
And so it's really interesting to keep up and to learn more and more about that and what's going on even currently. So I mean, I've enjoyed reading articles from the Biblical Archaeology Society and all of that to kind of learn a little bit more about what has been in the past, what's continuing today. So it's all just really fascinating. Okay, anything else? We should probably wrap it up. It's getting kind of long.
It is. Okay, well, one other really thing that was very cool to me, we were up on the Temple Mount, and I asked the tour guide where did he think the tables for the money changers would have been, and he kind of pointed to this one area over here. And I thought, okay, that's very, very interesting. We took a picture. And I've done a lot of reading since I came back to kind of solidify a lot of the stuff in my head. And I discovered was the area that he pointed to was right above where the sheep gate would have been. And down that sheep gate, through that sheep gate, is where they would have kept the sheep that were penned up, ready to come up for a sacrifice. And so somehow that whole picture to me, I don't know, was very cool to think, okay, this is, you know, granted we are 20 feet above the level that it would have been when it would have been Jesus' time, because the city's been destroyed and rebuilt so many times. But still, it is in general on this vicinity. And I found that to be, you know, very, very, very moving in a sense. Yeah. So
the other thing that was so interesting when we went below the Temple Mount in the tunnels to the place where they think the Holy of Holies might be located. And how far down that is, and we saw people praying down there. Again, women especially, because that's very significant. That's as close as they can get. On the Temple Mount, there's a spot that has a
kind of a gazebo-y cupola thing.
Over it, where our tour guide said this spot is directly over that tunnel area down below where the Holy of Holies,
where they say, they have determined that that's probably where the Holy of Holies is, not over under the Dome of the Rock. And it is in more of a direct line with the Eastern Gate. Right,
which was also very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I never heard anybody say that before.
Yeah, and you walk to the edge of the Temple Mount, you walk down these steps, and here's the back side of the Eastern Gate, which is open. I mean, you can't go through it, but from that side, you wouldn't realize that it is walled up from the outside, which has been walled up for 1,500 years or something like that.
Which was also just fascinating. So very interesting. Well, anything else?
Okay, well, we could go on and on. I'm sure that you're all very aware of that. But we wanted to just wrap it up sort of, and point out a few fun things and a few things that really were meaningful. And just, you know, appreciate the fact that you guys are interested, we hope. And just again say what a wonderful time we had, something that, you know, can never be repeated, certainly, but we would like to figure out a way to go back. So we're going to figure it out.
So lastly, let's just say that we are starting to think ahead. We don't know till when, but we think that there's probably some of you like us who would love to do this. We're going to find a way, and we'd like to invite you to join us. So if you're interested at all, doesn't matter if you think you can afford it or not afford it or whatever, just we'd like to know who's interested. And who'd be willing to say, if you can figure out a way to make it affordable, you'd be on board with us to go. So put that in the comments, okay? All right. So one more time.
Shalom. And some year again in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem again.
Thanks.